Okay, hello everyone who's tuning in, who is preparing, getting settled to practice some meditation together. We have a bit of a different camera angle today. Hopefully, that'll bring some freshness and vigor to our practice. I'll just make an announcement on the Discord. How's everyone doing today? Hi, Thomas, Chesh, Francis, Grant, Patrick, Jen, and Guy. Welcome, everyone. We will get started in, let's say, about 5 minutes. It's very interesting, the science of a wide angle smartphone camera, because the camera is pointed towards the Buddha, but it can see me very directly. Seems like I'm almost in the middle. Lots of people coming in to join. So all of us taking these minutes, this time to get settled. Hi there, River. Good morning, Anita. Polar Bears, welcome. And Mario joining as well. Maybe Luigi will stop by in not too long. We'll just have to wait and see. And as we get into the meditation headspace, as we begin to wind down from our craving activities, our aversion activities, we can take a few deep breaths, help us to settle, to ground, to open ourselves up to this practice that we will take on. Hey there, Gold. Good morning. Hey there, Ethan. Welcome. You're here just in time. We're about to get started. Today we will be looking at a reading from Master Sheng Yen, a short reading. A little bit of info about Master Sheng Yen. Became a monk at the age of 13 in China. Moved from China to Taiwan during the political upheaval, the communist unrest in China, or what they call communism. He's has a doctorate from the University of Tokyo, has received transmission or authority to represent Zen in multiple religions, multiple traditions of Zen Buddhism. And he's spent 6 years in solitary retreat. So if you're talking about a guru, a spiritual master, these kinds of teachers and these ways of connecting with the teachings, this is a great master to connect with. Shifu Sheng Yen, Master Sheng Yen from Taiwan. And the reading that we'll be looking at today is from the Zen perspective, or we would say Chan. So Zen began in China many, many hundreds of years ago, maybe more than 1,000 years ago, who knows. So Zen started as Chan in China, and then Chan spread to other countries, Korea, Vietnam, Japan, and the phrasing, the wording of Chan changed. And so what we commonly know as Zen represents the Japanese tradition of this style of Buddhism. But Sheng Yen is coming from the Chan tradition. So it's about 6 minutes after the hour. It's as good a time as any to get started. And before we dive into this luxurious, rich, dharmic reading, very, very powerful stuff, mystical stuff. Before we dive into that, we'll take a few minutes as a group to settle, setting our intention and gearing our attention to be with the body, be with the mind, be with awareness, this life that we're living right now, in a way where we are not going towards something or trying to get away from something. We are just being with it, being present, settling in, deepening. And as we practice in that way, we are really finding out, do we have the grit? Do we have the diligence, the interest, the determination to look at the Dharma, to work with these teachings, to crack open the nut of our selfishness, our desire, our fear, and to, rather than being totally moved around by that shell, that contraction, that entanglement of desire and fear and judgment, taking these beginning moments before we get into the reading to be aware of that tangled, contracted sense of self, to be aware of our desires, our fears, what we want, what we don't want, the special things, the not special things. To be aware of all that, but to settle, to calm, to open, So we will begin this short meditation with the sound of the bell. We'll sit, we'll practice, and then once again we will hear the sound of the bell and we will go into our reading. All right? So getting comfortable, finding that suitable position, comfortable position to practice in as we open ourselves up to the Dharma. In many senses, meditation takes a willingness to step into the unknown, to step out the door from our house of desire, expectation, self-identity, and fear. It's that very willingness to take the step that is at the heart of practice. Not being a special meditator or being a certain kind of person, but that very step at the heart of our meditation practice. So, let's begin with our reading, and we'll look at two topics here today in this short reading: selflessness and non-opposition. And I encourage you to maintain your meditative practice, deep listening. You can continue your meditation method if you have one. But listening deeply on this topic of getting the Buddha mind, selflessness. To find your real self, you must lose yourself. I tell my students that they must put aside thoughts about their own birth and death if they are to get anywhere. A meditator who is full of thoughts about themselves, thoughts of improving their health, or of gaining limitless freedom, will attain neither wisdom nor freedom. The self derives from the three poisons: desire, aggression, and delusion. Practicing meditation, practicing the Buddha way, you can gradually eliminate these three poisons. As the poisons are eliminated, you acquire wisdom and dissolve the false concept of self, so that your true self-nature is revealed. At that point, you discover that self-nature is selflessness. Having reached this stage, you know what is meant by living Buddhism and true self-nature. While the self ultimately needs to be dissolved, in the meantime, we need this self to help us reach selflessness. To think of being selfless from the very beginning, without having gone through the path of practice, is called wild fox awakening. Just as a baby must crawl before it can walk, you must begin with your ordinary self before finding self-nature. From there, you proceed by stages of practice to wisdom. Therefore, you should understand why we must start the practice with our ordinary selfish self. It is not to be despised. It is your vehicle to selflessness. So, this ordinary self, this ordinary life, this ordinary, basic, simple meditation practice, these ordinary desires, these ordinary fears, this ordinary moment-to-moment selfish life. That is where we begin on the practice of transcendence. So from this perspective, it is not a matter of taking this self and adding on layers of chakras and special colors and special powers and the nature of the universe and sacred geometry and solar astropolology. But this ordinary self, this ordinary life, as the beginning, as the necessary aspect of our practice to transcendence. The path of awakening, of Buddha nature, of enlightenment, begins and relies upon this normal, ordinary, everyday self. And it's from that self, that simple experience, that simple human, that we begin to practice. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you are a human being with desires and fears. Don't be discouraged by your ordinariness, because it is at the heart of our practice and the heart of the path. Taking a look now at the subject of non-opposition. Non-opposition. Buddhism condemns fighting and advocates non-opposition to one's enemies. This principle also applies to meditation. When you meditate, vexations and scattered thoughts may arise. You may be hindered, caught up by bad habits, or disturbed by noises or physical sensations. And the sensations, the noises, in and of themselves, are not vexations. Vexations are the attachment, the getting involved, the friction that goes along with those sensations, whether painful or pleasurable, and our attachment or our aversion to them. So Buddhism condemns fighting and advocates non-opposition to one's enemies. This principle also applies to meditation. When you meditate, vexations and scattered thoughts may arise. You may be hindered by bad habits or disturbed by noises. If these problems annoy you, no matter where you are, you will be unable to settle your mind and practice Chan, practice Zen, practice getting the Buddha mind. You have merely added another layer of scattered thoughts to your original set. The result is wasted effort. If you do this habitually, the more you meditate, the more disturbed and ill-tempered you will become. So, when you meditate, this is doctorate level meditation guidance right here. This is the rich stuff. When you meditate, vexations and scattered thoughts may arise. You may be hindered by bad habits or disturbed by noises. These kinds of things happen. Disturbed by sensations, disturbed by memories, disturbed by our bad habits, unskillful habits. If these problems annoy you, in that if you allow yourself to get caught up, to get involved in, to be annoyed by, defeated by, if you take these problems, if you take these difficulties that come up in your meditation as something to annoy you, something to bother you, something that is not what you want, no matter where you are, you will be unable to settle your mind and practice. You will merely be adding another layer of scattered thoughts to your original set. The result will be wasted effort. If you do this habitually, the more you meditate, the more disturbed and ill-tempered you will become. This is why many so-called old cultivators or long-time practitioners have very irritable dispositions and become angry at the slightest provocation. This is due to their wrong approach of opposing, fighting against their vexations and scattered thoughts, thus increasing their problems and creating much internal tension. A true Chan practitioner, a true meditator, a true follower of the Buddha way, handles distraction or unfavorable conditions with non-opposition, and thus dissolves any tension. They never resist or fight. What is meant by non-opposition? For example, if someone treats you maliciously, you would not wrangle with them. Rather, you would do everything to peacefully avoid or peacefully calm a confrontation. In this way, the dissolving of tensions is most likely to be achieved. It's the same when practicing Chan. It is the same when attempting or working to get the Buddha mind. Do not be disturbed by scattered thoughts. If you do not desire the pleasant or repulse the unpleasant, your mind will naturally become collected. Chan practitioners, meditators, should also maintain this attitude during their daily life. To become annoyed when facing with difficulties merely adds difficulty to difficulty. By maintaining a mind of peace and non-opposition, all tensions will naturally be dissolved. So maintaining this mind of non-opposition, of peace and acceptance in the face of adversity, difficulty, whether that difficulty be old habits, physical difficulties, mental difficulties, whatever it is, taking up our practice of meditation as non-opposition, not seeking the pleasurable, not trying to get away from that which is unpleasant or painful. We can take up a method of meditation to practice non-opposition. So if you do get into complicated thinking, confusion, falling way off balance, going back to the method. Perhaps it is awareness of the physical sensations in your body. Perhaps it is the mindful breathing, feeling the breath coming in and going out as your main meditation practice. Whatever it is that you practice, whatever method you use, finding a comfortable position for the body, and together let's practice non-opposition, non-desiring, non-rejecting. We will begin and end this meditation with the sound of the bell. taking our breath to be our balancing point. We're not trying to be sleepy. We're not struggling, not tense. Breath by breath, finding that balance of non-opposition, non-conflict, non-desire, non-fear. Breath by breath, coming back to the Buddha mind, to our totally ordinary, everyday life. Breath by breath. Notice how, even though desires, fears, pleasant and unpleasant sensations, feelings, ideas come into our mind, we have this capacity of awareness, of noticing, of exploring, of being present. Unpleasantness is there, pleasantness is there, boredom is there, all coming and going. But we have a capacity, an ability very innate in us to be aware, to be present. And this being present is a kind of unknown territory, a kind of expansive, curious experience, non-conditional, non-desire, non-fear. Using the breath as this balancing, stabilizing, and being okay with this expansive awareness in the midst of rising and falling conditions. So each and every moment, each and every breath in meditation, we're kind of starting anew. That new breath, that refresh brings us back to the present, to the center. So for some of us, we may be forcing a bit. There may be a quality of being too tight. So we take that breath to refresh, come back to the center, and find balance. And for some others of us, we may be quite sleepy. We're falling asleep. We may even need to slowly, mindfully stand up so that we can stay awake for our meditation practice. But each breath, each moment, we are coming back. We are returning to this awareness mind, noticing, exploring, experiencing, but not getting pulled into, not getting caught up with anything. Moment by moment, coming back to the breath and being aware. Being okay with this totally ordinary human life. Being okay with this practice of getting the Buddha mind. Silently and serenely, one forgets all words. Clearly and vividly, it appears before you. When one realizes it, time has no limits. When experienced, your surroundings come to life. Singularly illuminating is this bright awareness. Full of wonder is the pure illumination. The appearance of the moon, a river of stars, snow-clad pines, clouds hovering on mountain peaks. In darkness, they glow with brightness. In shadows, they shine with a splendid light. Like the dreaming of a crane flying in empty space. Like the clear, still water of an autumn pool. Endless eons dissolve into nothingness, each indistinguishable from the other. In this illumination, all striving is forgotten. Where does this wonder exist? Brightness and clarity dispel confusion on the path of silent illumination. The origin of the infinitesimal to penetrate the extremely small. There is the gold shuttle on a loom of jade. Subject and object influence each other. Light and darkness are mutually dependent. There is neither mind nor world to rely on, yet do the two interact mutually. Drink the medicine of correct views. Beat the poison-smeared drum. When silence and illumination are complete, killing and bringing to life are choices I make. At last, through the door, one emerges. The fruit has ripened on the branch. Only this silence is the ultimate teaching. Only this illumination, the universal response. The response is without effort. The teaching not heard with the ears. Throughout the universe, all things emit light and speak the Dharma. They testify to each other, answering each other's questions, mutually answering and testifying, responding in perfect harmony. When illumination is without serenity, then will distinctions be seen. Mutually testifying and answering, giving rise to disharmony. If within serenity illumination is lost, all will become wasteful and secondary. When silent illumination is complete, the lotus will blossom, the dreamer will awaken, the 100 rivers flow to the ocean, the 1,000 mountains face the loftiest peak. Like the goose preferring milk to water, like a busy bee gathering pollen, when silent illumination reaches the ultimate, I carry on the original tradition of my sect. This practice is called silent illumination. It penetrates from the deepest to the highest. Okay, thank you for joining, everyone. And as we finish our meditation practice together, I invite you to join me in chanting Sadhu, which is kind of a recognition of our skillful activity, a pat on the back, so to speak. That is to say, well done. So I invite you to join me in chanting Sadhu as we close and finish our group meditation practice. Sadhu. 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 Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And as we finish our meditation together, I encourage you to bring this practice slowly and gently into the rest of your life, not to get up and run to the candy bar, but maybe get up slowly and walk to the candy bar, whatever that candy bar may be to you. This practice of meditation, of awareness, of getting the Buddha mind is not something that we have to restrict only to our cushion, but it's something we can bring to all aspects of our life. When we wake up, when we go to sleep, when we walk out the door, we can maintain this awareness, not only awareness itself, brightness, attentiveness, but also a quality of gentleness, of loving kindness towards ourselves and others throughout our life. So that will be the formal end of our session, but we have quite a few people here, so if anyone would like to ask a question as we're wrapping up, I will stick around a bit to maybe answer some questions if anyone does have some that are quite pertinent. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining, and hope to see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. London time to practice together again. Oh, I had a bit of a glitch on my app. I wasn't able to see everyone's lovely comments here. Welcome to everyone. Yes, in the future we may hopefully have more sessions on the Discord where we can see each other and practice together more intimately. Sometimes the meditation that we do that we find difficult, that's hard to do, especially with metta, that can mean that it's all the more worthwhile to do that practice, to really show up for ourselves in that way of loving kindness. I certainly wouldn't recommend drinking while joining for our group meditations, but rather than good or bad, you have to use your own judgment to determine what's skillful and what's unskillful for you. Spoopy, it's not just the breath focusing, but it's really we're taking the breath as this balance point, as this anchor point into the ordinariness or the directness of our life, of our experience. And so what's also very important is the qualities, the qualities of approach that we're bringing to our mind at that time. And we just use the breath to keep us stable, simplifying, grounding, coming back. And then those qualities of gentleness, patience, compassion that we bring to the mind as we are practicing in that way, those are also very important. And we're setting up those habits, those approaches to our experience that's going to have other effects as well. Overthinking is oftentimes a symptom or something that comes from having a very scattered mind, it jumping from one thing to the next all the time. So when we practice meditation and we're slowing down and we are gathering and consolidating the mind, over time, I think it's quite likely that we'll have less overthinking. Of course, still happens, but maybe less over time. And meditation as a process rather than something we are getting or that's going to have a particular result, because it is a process that we're getting involved with. And stretching before meditation is a great idea, certainly both for physical health and it can help us ground, to gather and to get into the body, to step into the very direct experience that's so important in meditation. Yeah, I would highly recommend stretching before practice. And at times we've done group sessions where I lead some stretching before meditation. But as a monk, as a bhikkhu, especially as a Theravada monk, my robes are not really set up to act as a yoga teacher or a yoga instructor. So I don't do that so often. But sometimes we do stretch together before practice. But it's not so comfortable for me actually to lead that, because my robes are falling off and this kind of thing. And CLA Cat, many of our previous videos that you'll find on the YouTube go over a lot of the approaches, the techniques, the ways of meditation. But fundamentally, we are sitting laying, whatever it may be, and we are putting our mind, our attention onto the breath and noticing, being aware of physical sensations as they come up and go away, and also mental formations, ideas, perceptions as they come up and go away. And as we breathe, as we focus on our breath, rather than getting caught up or absorbed in those sensations, those conditions, we are noticing them and then returning back to the breath. So we will end our session now. I will turn off the live. Thank you for joining, everyone, and take care, be happy, be well, be peaceful, and hope to see you tomorrow or practice again with you tomorrow at 3 p.m. London time. All right? Thanks for joining, everyone. A treat as always.